Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates. Lift them up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is he? The King of glory. The Lord Almighty, he is the King of glory. There are some interesting entrances into Christian places. One such interesting entrance is at the Vatican City. It's called the Door of Jubilee. That door is only open at the command of the Pontifex. It had been closed up until several years ago when John Paul II had it open when he declared a day of Jubilee. Since that day, it had been closed for 50 years. Pilgrims to the Vatican who stand on the square all await for that day when the new pope, hopefully, will declare a day of Jubilee before 50 years. There's the door of the Church of Nativity, the very spot where it is claimed that Jesus had been born. It has an interesting, intriguing entrance that you have to stoop to enter the door. Sometimes it's referred to as the door of humility, that one has to bow when they're in the presence of God. There's an intriguing entrance in Florence, Italy, to the outdoor baptistry that's housed by gold doors. Thousands of people daily, hundreds of thousands of people monthly, millions of people annually stop and they look at those scenes from the Old and New Testament that have been captured in gold leaf at the door of beauty. But this morning on Palm Sunday, 2015, I want to draw your attention to some intriguing entrances from the scripture, and hopefully you and I won't miss the king when he comes in. We're just some months away that the second prince of England is to be born. And I can tell you this, you won't miss his birth. BBC will announce it. CNN will get a hold of it. ABC, CBS, and NBC. And for sure, TMZ. They will have that announcement. And many of us will talk about the birth of the second prince to William and Kate. We'll talk about that baby like we know that baby. We will reference that baby and talk about we were born when that baby made its arrival. That's good, but let me give you something a little better, and that is if you can know that baby's birth date, you ought to know the date of the one who has come to us to bring salvation, glory, and honor. But can I say something else about that missing? Don't miss him when he comes amazing us with his knowledge. The second time of recorded history is when Mary and Joseph made their annual trip to Jerusalem. But this time, Jesus is not nestled in the arms of its mother. This time, he's growing. He's a teenager. He has memorized the books of the law. He's probably going to Jerusalem for his bar mitzvah. And upon the arrival, he and Joseph and Mary, they make their way to the center of the city. And then they move further in to the citadel of religiosity. And there they are offering their offerings, and young Jesus has made his way, and he is seated among, as one picture describes it, the doctors of the temple, those who would teach the liberal arts, and he's in conversation. The day is setting now. The sun is about to ease back into the tent of night. And as it is settling in, Mary and Joseph rehearsing the events of the day and the excitement of being in the city, they were walking, and time had passed when they recognized that where is that boy? We have left him. This is Home Alone before it became a movie. Where is he? And at that moment, they recognized that Jesus was not with them. Let me pause parenthetically to say that all of us are on a journey. We're on a journey this week as a church, but all of us are on a journey. And all of us, we're on our way home, regardless of age and station of life. We're all on our way home. We're on a journey home. And if you recognize this morning that you're on your way home and you're going by yourself, stop and turn around and go get Jesus. If you're on your way home and you recognize that you're going alone, go back where you left Jesus and reclaim him, because you don't want to go home without him. You can't get home without him. But wherever he is, you're already at home. Mary and Joseph had made their way, and they had turned around to go back to Jerusalem. But while they were journeying back, Jesus was astounding the consciousness of these creative scholars as they had discussions about astrology. And he says, I am the bright and morning star. As they discuss botany, he says, I'm the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valley. As they talked about cardiology, he says, I'm a heart fixer and a mind regulator. As they talked about cosmology, he says, I was before Abraham was. I am that I am. As they began to talk about geology, he says, I'm a rock in a weary land. They started discussing the animals of zoology. He said, like a horse pawing in the valley, I'm a shepherd over his sheep. Whatever you need God to be, he can be that in Jesus Christ. Don't miss him on Palm Sunday. You can show up so much until you can miss him. Don't let him be in your midst and miss him this morning. You ought to be there and let him be to you what it is that you need him to be. He can fix it for you, I tell you. There he is in the midst. And Joseph and Mary got there and said, don't ever scare us like that again. Boy, you almost gave me a cardiac arrest. When I looked around, because you know, up to this point, Mary had been pondering some things in her heart to which she had not disclosed to anybody else. And mothers have that kind of gift, that they knew things about her child that she didn't even tell Joseph about. And then Jesus make a startling declaration early on, before we know anything about his public ministry. He said, Mama, I had to be about my Father's business. I had to be in my Father's house. When I'm at church, I'm at home, Mama. This is where I live, and this is where my Father's business is. You ought to be glad to be here today, that you're a part of God's business today. You're on his mind being in here today. Don't miss him. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Be ye lifted up, you ancient doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? Don't miss him when he comes to the city. Don't miss him as he astonishes the imagination of the scholars. But see him as he enters the gates as the king. Jesus had been concealing his identity for 3 years now. And all of the Gospels capture the story of what we call the triumphal entry, regardless whether you're reading it in Mark or Matthew or Luke or John. But in Matthew 25, because Matthew writes with a kingly perspective, he captures the imagination of the reader this morning for the parallel of Psalm 24 as he focuses in on Jesus' entry as a king. Kings have authority. And you see him demonstrate that authority in Matthew 21, where he comes into the city. He's at the mouth and he weeps over the city. He says, look at Jerusalem, my beloved Jerusalem, who kills her prophets and stones those who bring the good news to them. It is into this arena that he is about to walk. Josephus, the historian in his Antiquity, says that there were 3 million people who were scattered throughout the city. Human traffic, pedestrians walking, and all of their hopes and dreams and fears and delights all wrapped up in that center of commerce. There were people lined up on the streets. Not everybody was there waiting on the king. They didn't expect the king to come. But at the entry gate, there was one on the back, not of a steed, but on the back of a donkey. What a peculiar picture for a king to be on an unbroken coat. And yet he demonstrates his authority over life and nature. He says to a group of men, does he not go get and bring? And they go get and they brought. And then they take off their clothes and they start laying them on the back of the beast so that it'll have a soft place for our Lord to ride in. And they then start laying their garments in the way as an emblem of an image of how a king would come in. It was a strange comic view. I guess some of the people who were there were not paying any attention to it because other people were at the marketplace. They were selling their wares, and there were religionists who were there and traditionalists who were there, and they were reciting scriptures, and some were reciting Psalm 24, and they were saying the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they were caught up in their own good religious services while they were missing the king coming into the city. And there he is coming in, and people chuckling and laughing under breath at Jesus, like people in a room this big. Some of you have invited friends here, and they're sitting there this morning in disbelief saying, I can't believe that you silly people were gathering in a room like this to hear some old ancient story, but they just haven't met the king yet. When they meet the king, they'll see that he has a way of bringing meaning and significance and purpose to somebody's life. There he is on the back of that unbroken coat, but it's not bucking, it's not jerking, it's not lurching. It is an ocular demonstration that God is the Lord over nature, that all untamed nature comes to submission to him. I don't care how wow you think you are or have been, God can bring you under submission. Bringing into the streets, he's coming in and he's riding in, and at that moment he is hailed as the king, as the king. I just want to stop there, as the king. I hope I get past this one point, as the king. That's why I wanted to read Matthew or reference him, because he's focusing in on the king. Kings have authority, power. The king has honor and glory. This is the king's story. But in the German, the king means this: he is able. And that day on Palm Sunday, God in Jesus Christ was reminding us of one thing: he is able. And somebody here need to know that when you hear he is able, it's another word of saying he got power. You got to have power if you're going to be able. Now unto him who's able, oh my Lord, now unto him who is able to present you faultless before his throne. Let me tell you something. There are those of us who have been blemished by life, and some blemishes we have caused ourselves. But let me tell you today, when people have tried to remind you of the blemishes, you tell them that I got a king who is able to keep me from stumbling. Some of us, you know, we live in an imbalanced culture. Everything is not steady. But let me tell you something. When you're losing your footing, we have a king who is able. He's able to keep you from stumbling and from falling. And the good news this morning, if you have stumbled and if you have fallen, he's able to reach down and pick you up now unto him, who's able to keep you from stumbling and falling and present you before his glorious presence with exceedingly great joy. The only wise God, our Savior, be glory majesty, dominion, power. Hey, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all you can ask or think. That is, you can't think higher than his ability to do something with it. It doesn't matter what you're grappling with. He's able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all you can ask or think. What is it that you need this morning? He's able. He may not come when you want him to, but he's able. Did you hear what I said? He's able. But Pastor Wade, he's able. I'm in a tight place. He's able to squeeze in. I'm in a hard place. He's able to lighten your load. He's able. He's able. He's able. Don't miss him this morning. Don't miss his ability. Don't miss his power and authority. They came in and they cried, Hosanna. And you know there was some people that tried to quieten them children up. Y'all be quiet. It doesn't take all of that. And let me tell you something, it probably doesn't for somebody who doesn't know that the Lord is able. But if you've ever been in a squeeze and God has brought you out, it's hard to keep quiet. I mean, you don't mean to. Sometimes you say, you got to excuse me. I really don't mean to do all of this, but I just had a flashback of how good God has been to me. And some of us know he's good and we are still waiting. I like that kind of Christian. I don't need all the evidence in. I just need to know he's able. Yes, he is. And some people said, be quiet. And Jesus said, you don't have to shout. Remember, I told those scientists, I'm a geologist. I'm the rock that they was talking about. And if I can't get my human creation, I'll find a rock to shout for me. Because you know he got some rocks who can talk. Come here, rock. He said when the Israelites were thirsty, I admitted water and I became water for them in a dry place. Jacob would tell you when I needed to make a covenant, I bowed my head down on a rock in Bethel. Samuel will tell you that I built a rock of Ebenezer. Yes, sir. Daniel will tell you when God wanted to judge Babylon, he hewed out a stone and rolled it through the cities of the streets of Babylon. God is able to get even the rocks. But you know what? I don't want no rock talking for me. I'm glad rocks can talk, but I don't want no rock because that rock don't know what the Lord has done for me. And I'm sure that I'm mouthpiece in what you would be saying right now. You're saying, you're right, because if y'all knew what the Lord had done for me, you wouldn't be standing there today. But I'm about to tear up this seat right now, just thinking about how good God has been. I ain't ashamed about it. I ain't ashamed about it. There I was. I'm not ashamed about it. I should have been in the bed sleep, but I was looking at Kentucky and looking at Notre Dame. Been a long time since I had a nail biter. Down to the wire. And I was pulling for them boys in Kentucky this year and wanted them Harrison twins. They from Houston, you know. I was pushing for them. I said, come on the home team. Nail biters. There I was, dignified me. Pastor, scholar, theologian, Dr. West. Should have been praying, should have been reading my Bible. But there I was, all by myself. Get him, get him, get him. Boy, when that boy shot that three, bam, I said, oh! And I had to grab a hold of myself. I said, if you can shout for that three, you can shout for the big one. He's able. I got to sit down now. I got to make my way down the road. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Be ye lifted up, you ancient doors. and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord, mighty in battle. You can already see time don't permit it, because I can tell you he'll fight your battles. Yes, he will. If you sit still and be still, God will fight your battle. Sometimes it looked like that battle got the best of you. But God got a way of fighting your battles. Lift up your head, O ye gates. Be lifted up, you ancient doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Let me just tell you one last thing, and that is that the king who came into the city on the back of a donkey will leave the city or go out of the city bearing a cross. He came in with hosannas. He went out with a cross. Yeah. In, I wish I, and out with a cross. King of kings and Lord of lords. Listen, he came in on the back of a donkey, went out with a cross. And then when he came back, he didn't need no gates. He just showed up behind closed doors. They tried to lock him up, but he just got up. Have a good day, because he got all power. You can't lock up the king. King gets up when he want to get up. But there's another gate that he want to come in. It ain't Jerusalem, it ain't Houston, it's in your gate. He wants to come into your life, your heart, your career. He wants to come into your family with your children, your marriage, your hopes and dreams. Let him in. If you let him in, something good will happen to you.
When was the last time you connected with a church that made a dramatic difference in your life? Every week, Pastor Ralph Douglas West is making that kind of difference in the lives of people around the world. So call us or visit us on the web at churchwithoutwalls.org to find out more about our books, DVDs, and other fantastic resources. We also invite you to partner with us as we continue to take this ministry to a global audience. Your prayers and financial support are critical in allowing us to expand this remarkable message. So call the number on your screen to discover how you can become a partner with us today. And when you're in the Houston area, we invite you to visit us for a life-changing experience at The Church Without Walls, Rebuilding a Generation. Ralph Douglas West and Church Without Walls. Come visit us.